Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a very special presentation as we near the end of day 2 of Jewish Soldiers and Fighters in World War II. This program, Songs from Testimonies, will draw from the Fortunoff Video Archive for Holocaust Testimonies at Yale University and present the songs that people sang during their oral history interviews to depict their lives and experiences in the ghettos, the Red Army, and under German captivity as prisoners of war. Please welcome Stephen Naron of Yale University, who will serve as moderator and introduce the panel. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Michael, and thanks for putting this together. Thanks to JMU's Blavatnik Archive and all the other organizers and donors for putting this really wonderful program together. It's an honor for us to be here today to present the Fortunoff Video Archive Songs from Testimonies project. Just a little bit of background on the Fortunoff Video Archive. The archive began taping testimonies in New Haven, Connecticut in 1979. And when it started, it wasn't an archive per se, but rather a documentary film effort called the Holocaust Survivors Film Project. It was very much a grassroots effort by the New Haven survivor community and their supporters. Survivors funded it, they organized it, they served on both sides of the camera as witnesses and as interviewers. The first 183 testimonies recorded by the Holocaust Survivors Film Project were deposited at Yale in 1981, and the archive opened its doors to researchers the following year. Now there are something like 4,400 testimonies in the Fortunoff Video Archive, 12,000 hours of recorded material in over a dozen languages recorded over the last 40 years. Each testimony attempts to capture an entire life story. Each interview is really a world unto itself, functioning in many cases like an audiovisual autobiography. We have a very open-ended, witness-centered interview methodology, and it was designed to allow for a great deal of spontaneity and to provide the witness with the freedom to tell their story the way they desire. Thanks to this approach, songs and poetry appear in many testimonies, which is why we have a project like this. Our faculty advisor, Tim Snyder, in fact, said that video testimonies, like works of art, have a special ability to cross the membrane between death and life, between past and present. And I think this seems particularly true when listening to a survivor as she recounts a poem from the interwar period or sings a song written in a ghetto or camps. Because we began recording testimony early in 1979, and because our methodology focuses on capturing the survivor's entire life story, the archive contains, a few recordings of individuals who can even recount service as Jewish soldiers in the First World War, and many more who can describe life, including military life, in the interwar period. There are about 400 testimonies in the collection of individuals who served either in the Red Army, the partisans, or both. And we have many compelling testimonies of immigrants to Palestine, Israel, who upon arrival were swept up as soldiers in Israel's War of Independence. So the papers and academic presentations we've seen, the complex picture of Jews and military power, they're all reflected in one form or another in the first person on videotape in our archive. I hope that the following presentation can open a small window into the archive and also serve as a fitting concluding memorial act to honor the thousands of Jewish soldiers who gave their lives during the Second World War. While we dedicate this conference to the heroism of Jewish soldiers, we should also keep in mind that from the Jewish perspective, the war, the Holocaust, with its massive scale of destruction and loss of Jewish life, can only be conceived of as a defeat. And perhaps that will remind us to be wary of any potential glorification of war and militarism in the here and now, as war continues to be one of our most horrible, persistently recurring, and sadly socially acceptable crimes. And now I'd like to hand things over to our musician in residence, Zissel Slipovich and Sasha Luria.
Thank you, Stephen. Songs from Testimonies in the Fortunoff Video Archive is a project that explores and artistically presents music and poetic pieces performed by survivors and testimonies given to the archive. Some of the songs were from the pre-war period. Some of them gained new meaning during the Holocaust, playing many different roles, but often songs work to sustain people psychologically in the unimaginable conditions when even the very act of singing a song might have required an enormous effort. Some of the songs are not idiomatically Jewish. They might be songs from the past that acquired new topical lyrics There are songs of struggle and resistance, many songs that are satirical in nature, songs documenting people's suffering, songs naming the traitors and collaborationists. There are even overtly anti Semitic songs that the survivors nevertheless chose to perform. When I started working on this collection in 2018, I only had a vague sense of the richness, depth, and breadth of the material I would be examining. As I dug deeper, it became clear that I would need to contract an ensemble that would be the right fit for this very challenging material. In the 2 volumes of Songs from Testimonies, Sasha Luria sings Yiddish, Hebrew, Polish, German, Russian, mixed Yiddish, German, and French. The 2 volumes have been most stylistically and linguistically diverse albums that I have ever recorded or produced. From the very beginning of the project, I have been very fortunate to work with Joshua Kemp, who plays the accordion, keyboards, and guitar, with bassist Dmitry Ishenko, violinist Craig Udelman, and vocalist, singer Sasha Luria. Mariana Slipovich appears on 2 songs in Volume 2 on the tsimbali, a Belarusian string instrument similar to the hammered dulcimer. As time passes, we obviously are moved farther away from the origins of the source material, but our hope is that anyone listening to these songs will be driven to also learn more about survivors who sang them. These songs represent many things, including stories of loss and survival, stories that are still important to hear today when we are experiencing a new upheaval of hateful chauvinistic ideas and ideologies. Anti-Semitism itself, sadly, is hardly a thing of the past. Music, in a way different from a verbal story, has the power to educate, to challenge people's thinking. We will begin our program today with the song "Прощай, город наш родимый," Farewell Our Hometown. The entire project, Songs from Testimonies, in the Fortunov Video Archive, started with Lyubov K's. When I was asked to prepare 2 songs from her tape to be performed at a Holocaust Studies conference held at Yale University in May 2018, it is all but natural that we start our presentation with one song based on a poem remembered and performed by Lyubov in her testimony.
Lyubov K. was born in Zvenigorodka, Ukraine, in 1921. Before World War II, she was a teacher of Russian and German. In her testimony, Lyubov remembers many details of ghetto and camp life and mass killings, her post-war life, including identifying herself as Ukrainian, not Jewish in her documents, but feeling Jewish in her heart. Lyubov's testimony contains 4 pieces, 2 songs and 2 poems. They make a unique historical evidence of everyday struggle for survival at the Zvenigorodka concentration camp in Ukraine. The camp itself, the nearby village Nemorosh, where the inmates used to escape to get food, and the name of their guard, the Ukrainian collaborationist Cruel Guard Stepan, appear in 2 of the 4 pieces. Let us watch video number 1, Прощай.
Прощай, город наш родимый, прощай, любимая семья, прощайте, матери родные, обождите, прощайте, все хорошие друзья. Идем в дорогу мы слепую, не знаем, что ожидает впредь, но думаем сумную, что нас там ожидает смерть. С горы в долине показались дома Неморожа села, и сильно сердце застучалось, и покатилась слеза. Жилищем нашим оказалась свинарня без окон и дверей. Там сильно ветер продувал нас, и мы там зябли до костей. Сначала мы были не привыкши, нам дико показалось все. Тяжелым потом землю рыли и обливались слезой.
Прощай, город наш родимый, прощай, любимая семья, прощайте, матери родные, прощайте, все хорошие друзья. Идем в дорогу мы слепую, не зная, что ожидает впредь, но думаем сумную, что нас там ждала смерть. С горы в долине показались дома неморожа села, и сильно сердце застучалось, и покатилась слеза. Жилище наше оказалось свинарня без окон и дверей. Там сильно ветер продувал нас, и мы там сяли до костей. Сначала мы были непривыкшие, нам дико показалось все. Тяжелым потом землю рыли и обливались слезой. Тяжелым потом землю рыли и обливались слезой. Обливались слезой.
Jack M., born in 1913, was a survivor of the Szydłowiec ghetto in Poland and a wonderful folk singer. Outside and well before the Fortune of Video Archive project, he was recorded for the Yiddish Folk Song Project in New York, initiated and carried out by YIVO Institute for Jewish Research in the 1970s. Jack remembered and beautifully performed a wealth of traditional repertoire, including musical and theatrical pieces. His testimony includes traditional Yiddish songs of various genres, batchonis, Hasidic nigunim, paraliturgical tunes without words, and folk theater pieces such as Mechiras Yosef, The Trade of Joseph. Jack also shared Polish songs that he remembered from the street and the army, including some anti-Semitic and frivolous rhymes, presumably made up by his senior officer, and many other rare pieces. In addition to being a talented singer, Jack was also a gifted storyteller.
Polish Army Songs is a suite that is based on two songs from Jack's testimony. They drafted a Poor Yid and The Grey Dove. Before World War II, Jack M. served in the Polish Army. The two songs he remembered from that time were popular in his regiment and were probably composed by his fellow soldiers and officers. The suite, as it is arranged for performance, also contains several related traditional instrumental pieces. It opens with the foxtrot Żyd w Beszcze, Jew in a barrel, a pre-war piece that was popular both in villages and urban areas in Poland. It was recorded commercially as well, oddly labeled as a foxtrot, while it is clearly a polka. It presented the Jewish neighbor as the other, just like the first song does. The song they drafted Apor Yid consists of a couple of mocking anti-Semitic verses. It is followed by a lively interlude, a traditional instrumental piece, Polka Rzeszówka, which leads into the next military song that Jack performed in his testimony, A Grey Dove, a rather foolish love song based on a repetitive short motif in the rhythm of mazurka. So let's watch video number 2, Polish Army Songs.
They were laughing on us, the Christians, anti-Semitic all around. They made up a song. They took a Jew to the army. Zabrali do wojska biednego Żydziaka. Nie dali mu bułki z masłem, tylko kapuśniaka. Dali mu karabin, cebulią nabity. Kazali mu strzelać do swojej kobiety.
Sie du gewesen Lieder, und sie hat gesungen im Militär.
Plenty Lieder. About a girl, about a soldier. Siwy gołąbeczek na kamieniu siedział. Dałabym ci buzi, żebyś nie powiedział. Ja jakbyś powiedział, to bym się wstydziła, żeś mnie pocałował, jam się nie broniła.
Zabrali do wojska biednego Żydziaka, nie dali mu bułki z masłem, tylko kapuśniaka. Dali mu karabin, cebulą nabity, skazali mu strzelać do swojej kobiety. Siwy gołąbeczek na kamieniu siedział, dałabym ci buzi, żebyś nie powiedziała. Jakbyś powiedział, to by nie wstydziło, żeś mnie pocałował, ja się nie broniła. Jedzie woź na przewąź, malowanie uśnie, dałabym ci buzi, jak matula uśnie. Matula uśnięła, na kominku zgasło, dziewczę buzi dało, jak w łożeczku ciasło.
Irene S. was born in 1925 in Brzezany, Ukraine, in Grudziądz, Poland. A talented singer-songwriter, Irene was a survivor of several camps, including Lublin, Auschwitz, and Kaunitz. In her testimony, she remembered singing existing songs and composing new ones at the camp in order to boost the morale of other young people from Poland and the Soviet Union. Irene's native languages were Polish and Yiddish. Her Russian was somewhat limited. Nonetheless, she chose the latter for the song manifesto of the children enslaved and murdered at Treblinka in order to allow a Russian-speaking fellow inmate to sing this song in his own language. So let's watch video number 3, Treblinka Survival Song.
Военные грозы весь мир обнимают, и льется рабочая кровь. Вчерашние дети свободного края, сегодня мы племя рабов. Закрытыми в гетто, оторваны от мира и биты нацистским кнутом. Но если сегодня жить тяжко и плохо, сегодня мы завтра ждем. Но если сегодня жить тяжко и плохо, мы лучшего завтра пождем. The reason for which it was written in Russian was that the boy who wrote the words didn't speak any Yiddish. And so we had a choice of Polish or Russian, so we wrote it in Russian.
Военные грозы весь мир обнимают, и льется рабочая кровь. Вчерашние дети свободного края, сегодня мы племя рабов. Вчерашние дети свободного края, сегодня мы племя рабов. Закрыты мы в гетто, оторваны от мира и биты нацистским кнутом. Но если сегодня жить тяжко и плохо, сегодня мы завтра подождем. Но если сегодня жить тяжко и плохо, мы лучшего завтра подождем.
The next song in our presentation today is Schrei, Herzele Schrei, Cry My Heart Cry, which also became the title piece in the second volume of Songs from Testimonies audio edition. In the interwar Europe, including the Soviet Union, Latin American music was immensely popular. It is no surprise that some songs adapted popular Latin American tunes to the new lyrics and became widespread as new pieces. The musical origins of this song lie in Tango Oración, composed by the prominent Argentinian composer and tango orchestra director Eduardo Bianco. While the Schrei, Herzele Schrei is based on Oración, it has its own distinct feel, tempo, and form. We find this song in more than one testimony, both in the Fortunov Video Archive and in the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum's collection. It was sung by Morris Kay which we use as the main reference for our recording, Willie F., who presents a short fragment from the song, and Frida Bursztyn-Radasky, who sang a fuller but also a slightly different version titled Treblinka Dort, There Lies Treblinka.
The song conveys the story of frequent deportations from Warsaw's Umschlagplatz to Treblinka, as seen and felt by the ghetto prisoners. Morris Kay, born in 1917, heard the song while he was still living with his family in his hometown of Polanich. Finally, another survivor, Willie F., born in Jałożyce in 1928, remembered the song as well, but from Krakow. He survived the Krakow ghetto, Plaszow, and several other camps. And now we will watch video number 4, Schrei Herzl, Schrei.
Dort nicht weit ist der Umschlagplatz verleih, wie man stippt sich in der Breit zu die Waggonen. Dort hört man ein Geschrei, wie ein Kind schreit zu an Mama. Wir lassen mich allein, lass mir gehen zusammen. Die Polizei, sei haben geheißen, schnelle Gei, der wirst nicht leiden mehr kein Neut. Der wirst bekommen 3 Bräut. Sie haben nicht gewiss, als sie gehen auf einen schnellen Teut. Treblinka dort, für jeden Jita geht dort.
Sie haben nicht gewiss, dass sie gehen auf einen schnellen Teut. In Treblinka dort, jeden auf mal geht dort.
Es ist ein Sturm auf der Welt herabgegangen. Es haben Völker verwandelt Hollande. Und Rachmanes Joischer die Chure gemacht der Welt. Die sind von Himmel herabgerissen und von Tod gemacht. Dort, nicht weit, steht ein Umschlagplatz verleih, wie man stiebt sich in der Bereit zu die Waggonen. Dort hört man ein Geschrei, wie ein Kind schreit zu der Mama. Wir lassen mich allein, lass mir gehen zusammen. Die Polizei, sie haben geheißen, schneller gehen. Die wirst nicht leiden mehr kein Neu. Die wirst bekommen 3 Bräut. Sie haben nicht gewiss, als sie gehen am Teut. Treblinka dort, für jeden Jid a Gitte Ort. Ich du dort, man kann nicht schreiben mehr kein Wort. Es kommt dahin, verbleibt man dort, dort in Treblinka, das Herz die 2, wie man hielt sich noch der Monat von Tate, Mama, kein Treblinka zusammen. Schrei, Herzle, schrei, Herzle, such nicht aus, als die bist da Jid. Schwester und Brüder, Tate, Mama,
alle Schrei, Herz alle Zug nicht stolz, als die bist dahin. Schrei, Herz alle Schrei, Herz alle Zug nicht stolz, als die bist dahin. Schwestern, Brüder, Toten, Mama, alle gehen zusammen, alle gehen zu versammeln, als die bist dahin. Schrei, Herz alle Schrei, Herz alle Zug nicht stolz, als die bist dahin. Als die bist dahin.
Stuben-Elsto. Joseph W. was born in Lodz, Poland in 1929. When the Nazi occupation began, he and his family were locked in the ghetto. One of Joseph's brightest memories was of Yankele Hershkovich, who composed many songs in the Lodz ghetto and was famous as the ghetto troubadour. Stuben-Elsto is a dialect version of the German word Stubenältester. The original meaning of the term was a senior soldier in the barrack room. In the concentration and slave labor camps, the word meant a capo, a prisoner functionary assigned by the SS guards to supervise forced labor or carry out administrative tasks.
Stuben-Elster conveys the grim reality of everyday life in the camp. The Yiddish lyrics carry a strong influence of German as well as camp slang. The Freilicht's-like feel of the song, as sung by Joseph in his testimony, becomes a vehicle for the dark humor that saturates the lyrics. So let's watch this concluding video, number 5, Stuben-Elster.
Stuben-Elster, gibst du Gefälster, einen Masub in den zweiten Apatsch, o hält mich schreien, sind Schlutzekaien, Maraba, ein jeder ist auch wat. Fin bei ihnen fri, hab ich nicht kann ri, mir sich gleich antreten, in ich weiß nicht wie, dort im Klosett, sprachen man red, treffst dir einem Schluffen, wie bei sich im Bett, Stuben-Elster, gibst du Gefälster.
Beginnen früh, hab ich nicht kein Rie, mir sich gleich eintreten und ich weiß nicht wie. Dort im Klosett sprachen man Rett, treffst die einem Schnuffen, wie bei sich im Bett. Stuben-Elster, gibst du Gefälster, einem Azug und dem zweiten Apatsch. Hey, nicht schreien, es ist nicht du zu keien, Maraba, ein jeder ist ein Quatsch. Kinder mit Tokschuh, wer ich geil und gru, läuf ich dort und du, schreit auf der Blockova, will oben ruh. Sagt man nicht teilt, jeder sich eilt, Gruppe Kaschemanne, Kartoffeln und Geschäft. Gibst du Gefälster, einem Azug und dem zweiten Abatsch. Hey, nicht schreien, es ist nicht so zu keien. Und Maraba, in jeder ist Achwat. Du bei uns im Block, hört man schon den Glock. Die Portionen haben geht es mit dem Stock. Oi, bin ich verdammt, weil ich hab nicht am. Heit man dort und schreien, in Jude, jatsche Damm. Stubunelste, gibst du gefällste. Eine Masuk und den zweiten Apache. Heit nicht schreien, es ist nicht nur zu kreien. Und Maraba, ein jeder ist Achwat. Stubunelste, gibst du gefällste. Eine Masuk und den zweiten Apache. Heit nicht schreien, es ist nicht nur zu kreien. Und Maraba, ein jeder ist Achwat.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this presentation today. It was Sasha Luria and myself and Stephen Aaron who presented today. And thank you so much, Michael and Aaron and everybody for having us, for hosting this program, Songs from Testimonies. You can listen to the Songs from Testimonies, including detailed information on each song and the survivor, at songsfromtestimonies.org. This is a shortcut to the Fortune of Archives page on Yale University's library, songsfromtestimonies.org. And you can purchase CDs, LPs, and digital downloads at zisl.bandcamp.com. The artists in the presented videos were Sasha Luria and the Zisel Slepovich Ensemble, Joshua Kemp on the accordion and keyboard, Dmitry Ishenko on the contrabass, Craig Gudelman on the violin. I am Zisel Slepovich. I'm the artistic director of who conceived this program, a woodwind player and vocalist on some additional tracks on Songs from Testimonies project. Stephen Aaron is the director of the Fortune of Video Archive for Holocaust Testimonies at Yale University. Video editing was done by Magdalena Hutter, sound editing by Joshua Kemp. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's been really a pleasure and an honor.
The pleasure and privilege was ours. We are grateful that you all participated. What a wonderful special program. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to move into the concluding remarks for the conference, and we hope you will join us there. Thank you again, Sasha and Zisel and Stephen, for your participation.